Okay, between Comic Con and social media, Todd McFarlane and Jason Blum have given us an update on what they're going to call King Spawn, the rated R Spawn movie that we're all going to be expecting possibly as early as 2025, but let's be honest, probably 2026. Let's talk about the updates right now. Hey, I'm Pops, and yeah, I've grown to kind of love Spawn over the last 18 to 24 months. Enjoyed kind of the new version of the Spawn verse where Spawn kind of broke things. We ended up with Gunslinger Spawn and Scorched, and just a nice story arcs, and lots of great art and great characters. And during that time, Blumhouse had partnered with Todd McFarlane and said, "Oh, we're going to do a rated R Spawn movie." And then it basically has kind of been an on again, off again thing. Jamie Foxx has been attached at one point, but they do have writers and right now we have an update on social media. All right, I'm going to give credit to Game Rat, pulled this off social media, summarized it there for us. You can read it. It says it's probably just a working title, King Spawn. The thing is, it's that way for us to say that we're not just going to emulate the past. And he felt that just calling it Spawn, plain old Spawn, that it would sort of go, oh, this is just a reboot and a repeat. So I don't know if it would be the final title or whatever. You have to clear these things and let go and all those things. But it was just a way to separate it, at least for us internally, to say, hey, this is our version, and it's different from the one decades ago. Now, I think it's exactly what everybody expected. Is I think with Blumhouse being attached, that we know with what they've done, even with Halloween, which is probably one of the things that people are very divided on. But many other things that they've kind of dabbled with, it definitely has a new flavor and update feel to it. And we all feel like Spawn in the hands of Blumhouse is probably one of the better situations and better partnerships. To calling it King Spawn, doesn't really fit with the story because there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of characters that no one's going to know outside of comic book world. And maybe at the end of this video, I'll give you a little bit of my take on what I would do if I was writing the script and kind of how I would kind of evolve into this and really kind of plan multiple movies at once. I really try to plan at least 3 movies and kind of focus on building a Spawn verse that would definitely want people to want more beyond just the scope of this. All right, more specifically, we can talk about what happened at San Diego Comic-Con. That's right. There's updates there, obviously. You have a panel, you have these people in the same room, people are going to ask those questions. And with Deadpool Wolverine dropping, the rated R comic book thing was about ready to explode. So let's get into some of those comments that they had during that panel. And basically, it was just talking about that new movie, the King Spawn movie, and that there's basically been in the works since 2017. So it's really kind of been a mess trying to get it to at least this point. There's 3 writers that are attached: Matt Mixon, Malcolm Spellman, who's been attached for Falcon and Winter Soldier, and Scott Silver, who worked on Joker. So the anticipation is pretty high for that. This is a Thursday panel, and McFarlane had said, "They've been true to my spirit," praising the trio of writers during the panel. In terms of the storyline, they gave him one directive: it has to be badass. Keep it badass. And I'm going to go along for the ride. And they delivered a badass script. I think it's badass. I think it's badass. And then I think movie goes around the world who do not even know who Spawn or Todd McFarlane is will be excited because we're excited for it. McFarlane promised a bold and different take on the character that certainly doesn't play it safe, but is decidedly rated R. Now, if you've seen my video on the Spawn animated series, or if you can have access to Max, you can watch Spawn animated series, or if you want to go out and just buy the Spawn animated series, I have to be honest, it's not that expensive or hard to find online. It's difficult to find in physical copy, but it's at least a DVD upload of it all. I think it's worthy of your time. It gives you a good feel for what they're going for with sort of a rated R take on things. But this is kind of like one of the things that's kind of been shared out there on Twitter. This is Todd McFarlane's account, the King Spawn logo on the front. And I agree, it may not be the title that sticks, but I do think it's a good place to start. Now, Deadpool Wolverine, radar comic movie, blows up, ton of cash flowing in. Quote, that movie is going to open up giant, and it's going to be a giant number. On Monday, it's going to establish a number that everybody in Hollywood will look at and go, oh, we need to do Radar Comic Book Fair. And I've been saying this forever. I agree. They're just finally going to come around to it. Now, again, this falls into that category, as I said in my conversation, and I would definitely have repeated it several times. I don't want Hollywood to learn the wrong lessons. Deadpool Wolverine is a category of film where a whole lot of wrong lessons can be learned, right? Throwing just a whole bunch of fan service, profanity, gay jokes, and obnoxiousness doesn't make a good movie. That film is extremely thin on story, very lean on substance. In Spawn, there's a lot to work with, but they also have a lot of comic books where they don't have a lot of substance. They're pretty lean. So just having a whole lot of cool, crazy stuff happening isn't necessarily going to warrant a good film. And I hope McFarlane can have people around him that can kind of like at least tell him that. Okay, he says McFarlane goes on to talk about how the industry will likely double down because of Joker 2, which outlands in October. It's also a rated R film. More of a dramatic piece with a musical overtone on that one. So I'm not quite sure it's a one-to-one comparison to what Spawn would go for. And quote, if we try to watered down version of Marvel or DC, it won't work. We're going to do our own thing, our own take on Spawn. We want to do an Image Comics movie. What we do at Image is eclectic and different than those big two giants do. We have to have a confident studio that knows we're not going to get Marvel or DC light. They're going to get their own thing. So then it kind of goes through just 1992 origins, talks about all the different characters, talks about invited different people there to discuss the new comic books that are coming out, some things of that nature. So it is a lot going on with McFarlane and Spawn if you want to get connected to that kind of thing. I've kind of fizzled out on a little bit because I felt like the story just kind of didn't really go anywhere and paid off for a little bit. I'm going to kind of jump back into it here soon, but I really am excited about the idea of a Spawn movie. And let me give you how I would approach this. I would actually approach this with jump right into things and then pick up the pieces of the backstory as though people know at least a little bit and do it through flashbacks and the trauma that Al Simmons, the Spawn, has. So I would open with a big battle sequence, probably like Overkill or something, a cyborg creature you don't have to know a whole lot about. The kick butt fight scene, a kick butt thing that shows off what Spawn's actually capable of, and having black out, having flashback, do something that would quell that conflict, and then go into your credit sequence, and then use Sam and Twitch, the two detectives that are in the Spawn verse, as your grounded way to connect it to the audience, kind of go through investigating the crime scene, and then Spawn's looking down on them investigating, knowing he did it. He goes to see Wanda, who was his wife, and that creates all those flashbacks. And these flashbacks are very common in the comic book. They were in the animated series, and you can fill in Al with Wanda. You know they were married. You know he dies. You know he goes to hell. And then you can kind of set up that first phase of film, which is basically this whole, who is Spawn? Who am I? What my responsibility is. And again, you can do a little bit in flashback, or you can talk about some of that, but I think you have to kind of move on. We can't just spin our wheels with another, quote, origin story and get really deep with nothing more than Malboja and Clown. We have to have more than that. And then I think you have to end with something that probably ties to those newer Spawn books, maybe something that has to do with the universe where he's going to use these powers that he kind of has. Maybe he disregards warnings and does something that ceases death, traps people here. And then you end up with why Gunslinger Spawn, Medieval Spawn, Redeemer. You have all these different characters that can be Rashi Spawn, can all be sucked in. Just a ton of things that you can do. And it's hard to figure out what's the right balance and not get out too over your skis and doing too much too fast. But it would be that type of conversation that we would flush out. And it's about Spawn trying to learn and take responsibility for being this Hell Spawn and what it means. And I think phase one of that would be some sort of victory, and then also maybe some arrogance or some foolhardiness that allowed for this universe thing that messes up things. And you have maybe you end with Angela, and she basically is a kick butt person that can take him out. So maybe that's how you end the first movie. And then you kind of go into, oh crap, what have you done to the universe? Blah, blah, blah. It's much more complicated. And you end up with like a Scorch team up that has to be formed to save everything, including putting Spawn basically in power, or the head of the universes at the end of the day. So anyway, that's my general take on it. I'm not sure what you guys think. What do you think about McFarlane's comments? What do you think about Blumhouse being involved? All your different thoughts and ideas are definitely welcome here. So let me know. Thanks for watching, everybody. I am Pops.